Picture this: a flickering candle casts eerie shadows across a door sealed for over 3,000 years. The air is thick with dust and anticipation as Howard Carter peers through a small breach in the ancient plaster. His hands tremble, then the words that would echo through history. "Can you see anything?" A pause. "Yes," he whispers, "wonderful things." That moment in 1922, when Tutankhamun's tomb was first breached, didn't just reveal golden treasures, it cracked open a doorway to the past, proving that even in the most explored corners of Egypt's Valley of the Kings, earth-shattering secrets could still lie hidden. Yet for every tomb we've uncovered, countless others remain shrouded in mystery. The Valley of the Kings, that sun-baked labyrinth of rock and legend, still guards its secrets fiercely. Some believe lost pharaohs rest in chambers buried by time, their names erased from history. Others whisper of hidden passageways concealed behind false walls or swallowed by shifting sands. And here's the thrilling part: we're standing on the brink of another golden age of discovery. Modern archaeologists aren't just swinging pickaxes, they're wielding ground-penetrating radar, thermal imaging, and even cosmic rays to scan the Earth for voids our eyes can't see. The question isn't just what might still be down there, it's who. So let's journey together into the heart of this ancient enigma. We'll walk the same paths as pharaohs and tomb robbers, explore the high-tech tools rewriting the rules of archaeology, and ask why, even after centuries of exploration, the Valley of the Kings refuses to give up all its ghosts. Because every scrape of a trowel, every blip on a radar screen could be the prelude to another wonderful things moment. The desert hasn't spoken its last word. Are you ready to listen? The Valley of the Kings isn't just a random scattering of tombs, it's a carefully engineered masterpiece of sacred geography. Nestled on the west bank of the Nile, directly across from the ancient capital of Thebes, this barren stretch of desert was chosen with purpose. To the Egyptians, the west symbolized the realm of the dead, where the sun god Ra completed his daily journey before rising reborn at dawn. And looming over it all, the natural pyramid of Al-Quoin, its jagged peak mirroring the man-made monuments of Giza, stood as a silent sentinel. This wasn't just a mountain, it was a divine beacon believed to mark the threshold between worlds. Pharaohs from the 18th to the 20th dynasties, nearly 500 years of rulers, saw this valley as the ultimate royal necropolis. But why here? The answer lies in both secrecy and symbolism. After the colossal pyramids of the Old Kingdom were looted within generations, New Kingdom pharaohs opted for hidden, rock-cut tombs. The valley's narrow gullies and sheer cliffs provided natural fortifications, while its remote location deterred thieves. Yet every twist and turn of this labyrinth was also a prayer carved in stone. Tombs weren't just dug, they were meticulously aligned with celestial events, their descending corridors mimicking the sun's nightly descent into the underworld. Walk through the valley today and you're tracing a sacred map. Tomb entrances often face east, greeting the rising sun, while burial chambers plunge westward, deeper into the earth's embrace. Some tombs spiral unexpectedly, their layouts reflecting the chaotic journey of the soul through Juwat, the Egyptian underworld. Even the choice of which cliff face to carve into held meaning higher elevations were reserved for the most powerful pharaohs, their tombs literally elevated toward the heavens. This wasn't just a cemetery, it was a machine for resurrection where every chisel mark whispered the same hope, that death was merely a door. Beneath the scorching sun of the Valley of the Kings, one tomb defies all expectations, not for a single pharaoh, but for an entire dynasty's worth of royal children. KV5, the sprawling labyrinth built by Ramses the Great, wasn't just a burial chamber, it was a monument to paternal ambition on an unimaginable scale. When archaeologist Kent Weeks rediscovered its entrance in 1987, he thought he'd found another modest tomb. Then his team crawled deeper. Corridors branched like veins, walls etched with the names of Ramses' sons, dozens of them. By the time they'd mapped 120 chambers, it was clear this was the most extensive tomb ever found in Egypt, a hidden city of the dead. The real shock came in the 1990s when ground-penetrating radar pulsed through the limestone. The scans revealed something electrifying: entire wings of the tomb still sealed, their doorways choked with debris. Some corridors twisted abruptly, terminating in what looked like deliberate blockades. Could these passages lead to more burial chambers, perhaps holding the mummies of Ramses' many children? Imagine the scale of loss and power required to carve a mountain into a family mausoleum. Ramses the Great ruled for 66 years, fathered over 100 children, and seemingly prepared tombs for many of them. Yet KV5 feels unfinished, as if the earth itself couldn't keep up with his ambitions. What makes KV5 so tantalizing isn't just its size, but its secrets. False walls hide recesses where artifacts might still lie untouched. One chamber's ceiling collapsed in antiquity, sealing its contents like a time capsule. And then there's the north wing, barely explored, its furthest reaches still echoing with silence. If Tutankhamun's tomb, with its mere 4 rooms, could rewrite history, what might a fully excavated KV5 reveal? Royal mummies, lost funerary texts, even the air here feels heavy with possibility. Every scrape of a brush against those 3,000-year-old walls whispers the same thrilling question: what did Ramses bury here that we still haven't found? Modern technology keeps unveiling surprises. Thermal imaging shows temperature variations in certain walls, hinting at voids behind them. Spectroscopy has detected organic residues in sealed chambers, suggesting the presence of forgotten offerings. And then there's the enigma of the missing mummies. Despite KV5's scale, almost none of Ramses' children have been found here. Were they moved in antiquity to evade tomb robbers? Or do their remains still lie in those unexplored corridors, waiting for the right radar pulse, the right stroke of luck? The story of KV5 isn't just about what's been discovered, it's about how much we still don't know. Standing in its deepest chamber, you can almost hear the echoes of chisels and chanting priests. Ramses the Great didn't just build a tomb, he engineered an eternal nursery, a place where his legacy could literally be carved into the bedrock of history. And with every new scan, every shifted stone, we're reminded that the Valley of the Kings still holds its breath, guarding stories not yet told. The children of Ramses may have vanished from the living world, but their silent, subterranean home still has secrets to surrender. The question isn't whether we'll find them, it's what they'll tell us when we do. While the East Valley draws crowds with its glittering treasures and famous names, just over the ridge lies its shadowy twin, the West Valley, where echoes of history fade into whispered speculation. Here, the cliffs loom steeper, the silence feels heavier, and only a handful of tombs break the monotony of sun-bleached stone. The most notable, WV-23, belongs to the enigmatic pharaoh-ite Tutankhamun's successor, but beyond that, mostly untouched earth hiding secrets under a blanket of sand. It's not that archaeologists ignore this place, it's as if the land itself resists them. The challenges start with the terrain. Unlike the East Valley's relatively accessible slopes, the West is a gauntlet of sheer cliffs and unstable scree. Every step feels like climbing a ladder of loose stones, and excavations require battling not just the heat, but collapsing walls and flash floods that funnel through narrow ravines. Then there's the scarcity of clues. While the East Valley's tombs shout their presence with carved lintels and graffiti from ancient pilgrims, the West offers few inscriptions, just the occasional faded cartouch or a single, cryptic symbol pecked into the rock. It's like comparing a library to a locked diary. But what if the emptiness is intentional? Some scholars suggest the West Valley wasn't neglected, it was reserved. Think about it, I chose this isolated spot despite having options, and whispers persist that the controversial pharaoh Akhenaten might have been buried here before his remains were moved. Could this have been a valley of outcasts where rulers on the fringes of tradition sought refuge in death? Or perhaps it was sacred ground meant only for rituals beyond public view? Even the sun behaves differently here, painting the cliffs in long, otherworldly shadows by midday, as if the light itself hesitates to reveal too much. Modern technology could rewrite this narrative. Recent LiDAR scans have revealed anomalies, shapes too angular to be natural, buried beneath the valley floor. One team picked up traces of iron oxide in a spot with no known tombs, hinting at man-made pigments. Another survey flagged a thermal irregularity near I's tomb, suggesting a hidden chamber or passage. Yet funding and permits for the West Valley remain scarce, as if the world can't shake the assumption that the real prizes lie elsewhere. Standing in the West Valley today, you're struck by its quiet defiance. It doesn't offer the instant gratification of Tutankhamun's gold or the carved drama of Ramses' exploits. Instead, it asks patience for archaeologists to scale its cliffs, for scanners to decode its voids, and for us to reconsider what important really means in the shadows of history. Maybe the West Valley's greatest secret isn't what's hidden there, but why we've stopped looking. Even in the most famous tomb in the Valley of the Kings, the story isn't over. KV-62, Tutankhamun's burial chamber, has long been considered a modest footnote compared to the grand tombs of other pharaohs. But what if its small size was a decoy? In 2015, radar specialist Hirokazu Watanabe swept his ground-penetrating radar device across the tomb's northern wall, and the reading sent shockwaves through the Egyptology community. Hidden behind the painted scenes of Tutankhamun's afterlife, the radar detected a void, not just a crack or a fissure, but a space roughly the same size as Tutankhamun's own burial chamber. And that was just the beginning. British archaeologist Nicholas Reeves studied the scans and noticed something even more startling. The plaster on the north wall wasn't just painted. It concealed what looked like a sealed doorway, complete with the faint outline of a lintel. His theory, KV-62, was never meant for Tutankhamun alone. The tomb's unusual L shape, its off-center burial chamber, and the rushed artwork all pointed to one tantalizing possibility. This was originally part of a larger tomb, adapted for Tutankhamun after his sudden death. Behind those walls, Reeves argued, could lie the undisturbed burial of Nefertiti, Tutankhamun's stepmother and one of ancient Egypt's most powerful women. Not everyone agrees. Some geologists insist the void could be a natural cavern, a quirk of the valley's geology. Others point out that radar alone can't distinguish between a treasure-filled chamber and an empty crack. But in 2020, a second round of scans, this time by a team from National Geographic, added fuel to the fire. Their radar detected not just one void, but multiple anomalies, a potential corridor leading north and another space to the west. The patterns were too symmetrical, too deliberate to dismiss as random erosion. The debate hinges on more than just technology. Look closely at the tomb's artwork and you'll spot oddities, faces recarved, names overwritten, as if the scenes were altered in haste. Then there's the tomb's axis. Most royal burials in the valley align straight, but KV-62 juts sharply to the right, as if avoiding something or someone. Reeves believes this awkward turn was made to bypass Nefertiti's original burial chamber, preserving it behind Tut's walls. What's at stake isn't just another tomb. Finding Nefertiti would rewrite the dynasty's story, offering clues to her mysterious disappearance from history and her possible reign as pharaoh. Yet until someone drills a camera through that plaster, the void remains a Rorschach test, proof of a hidden chamber to some, a geological fluke to others. One thing's certain, if the boy king's tomb still holds secrets after a century of study, what else might the valley be hiding in plain sight? Ancient Egyptians didn't just bury their dead, they armed them with words sharper than any blade. Scrawled in soot red ink across tomb walls or etched into clay tablets left beside sarcophagi, curses promised unimaginable suffering to thieves. The crocodile will feast on him in the water, the snake will strike him on land, warns one inscription. Another chillingly declares, "He who enters this tomb unclean, I will seize his neck like a bird." These weren't idle threats, they were psychological warfare designed to terrify grave robbers into leaving the dead undisturbed. But here's the twist, some of the most feared curses weren't aimed at common thieves. They were reserved for those who dared erase a pharaoh's memory entirely. Take the Amarna period, when the so-called heretic king Akhenaten turned Egypt's religion upside down. After his death, his successors chiseled his name from monuments, toppled his statues, and scrubbed him from royal records. Yet his tomb and those of his family were never publicly desecrated. Why? Perhaps because the real punishment wasn't just physical destruction, but the terror of being forgotten in a culture obsessed with eternal remembrance. Today, archaeologists whisper that the undiscovered tombs of Amarna's outcasts might still be protected by something worse than curses: silence. No inscriptions, no markers, just empty space where history should be. Modern expeditions have fueled eerie legends. In the 1920s, just weeks after Tutankhamun's tomb was opened, financier Lord Carnarvon died unexpectedly from an infected mosquito bite. Newspapers blamed the mummy's curse, igniting a global frenzy. Never mind that Howard Carter, who spent years inside the tomb, lived to 64. The story stuck. Fast forward to 2005, when a team investigating a potential Amarna-era tomb in the Western Valley reported equipment failures, sudden illnesses, and one researcher's cryptic journal entry: "The air smells of myrrh when no one is there." Rational explanations, probably, but in a valley where dust carries the weight of 3 millennia, even skeptics pause before brushing off coincidence. What's fascinating isn't whether curses are real, it's why they endure. Beneath the Hollywood tropes lies a profound truth: these tombs weren't just storage for bodies. They were bridges between worlds, where disturbing the dead meant risking cosmic balance. Today's archaeologists don't fear supernatural retribution, but they do respect the cultural power of these warnings. When radar suggested hidden chambers behind Tutankhamun's walls in 2016, Zahi Hawass himself hesitated, insisting on exhaustive scans before physical intrusion. "We are not treasure hunters," he reminded the world, "we are listeners." So if an undiscovered Amarna tomb lies sealed somewhere, waiting, its greatest protection might not be curses carved in stone, but the unspoken dread of what happens when we rewrite or erase history itself. The real horror isn't a mummy's wrath, it's the moment we realize some doors were meant to stay closed. The Valley of the Kings holds more than just tombs, it guards the ghosts of pharaohs who vanished from history's stage. Take Ramses VIII, a ruler whose reign flickered briefly in Egypt's 20th dynasty. No tomb, no mummy, not even a definitive monument bears his name. His absence is a gaping hole in the valley's story, one that renowned archaeologist Zahi Hawass believes might be solved by looking beyond the obvious. Hidden beneath later burial debris or tucked into overlooked crevices, these lost kings could be waiting in plain sight, their resting places disguised by time's chaos. Then there's Thutmose II, a warrior pharaoh whose mummy was reportedly found but not in his own tomb. Instead, his body lay crammed into a cache with other royalty, stripped of his original burial goods. This was no accident. During the 21st dynasty, priests scrambled to protect mummies from tomb robbers, moving them into hidden communal pits. But what if some were left behind? Hawass points to the valley's western reaches, where radar anomalies suggest uncharted shafts. One theory chilling in its simplicity: perhaps these missing pharaohs were never moved at all. Their tombs, robbed and abandoned, might still hold fragments: a shard of a canopic jar, a scrap of gold leaf discarded by thieves who overlooked clues in their rush for treasure. Even more intriguing are the reused tombs. Pharaohs like Amenhotep I were known to repurpose older burial sites, sealing predecessors' remains deeper within the rock to make space for their own. Could this explain why some royal mummies defy discovery? Imagine a tomb within a tomb, a pharaoh's sarcophagus buried beneath centuries of debris, concealed not by design but by the sheer weight of history piling atop it. Modern scans have detected voids beneath excavated floors, hinting at earlier chambers now buried under collapsed rubble. The real enigma, though, lies in the valley's silent corners. Hawas's team once surveyed a nondescript patch near the tomb of Merentu, where ground-penetrating radar pinged back something unexpected, a vertical shaft descending into darkness. Too narrow for a full burial, it matched the dimensions of cache sites used to hide royal mummies. Could this be where a lost pharaoh was stashed in secret? Without excavation, it's just a blip on a screen, but in a valley where every shadow might hide a king, even blips deserve a second glance. The irony is haunting. These rulers once commanded empires, their names etched into temple walls to ensure eternity. Yet now their absence speaks louder than any inscription. Whether they lie in overlooked shafts, repurposed tombs, or chambers still choked with rubble, their stories aren't gone just waiting. And as technology peels back layers of time, the Valley of the Kings whispers a promise: no pharaoh is truly lost. Just misplaced, the Valley of the Kings may seem like a sun-scorched wasteland, but beneath its parched surface lurks an invisible killer: water. Flash floods, rare but catastrophic, have carved through these cliffs for millennia, reshaping the landscape with terrifying force. One moment the valley is silent, the next a wall of mud and debris crashes down its narrow gullies, burying everything in its path. Archaeologists learned this the hard way in 2006, when a routine cleaning near Tutankhamun's tomb revealed something astonishing: a hidden shaft designated KV-63, choked with silt and forgotten artifacts. This wasn't a grand royal burial, but a storage chamber for embalming materials, sealed by a flood so violent it erased all trace of its existence for over 3,000 years. KV-63's discovery was a wake-up call. If something as substantial as a 7-meter-deep shaft could vanish under flood debris, what else might lie buried? The answer lies in the valley's geology. Satellite imagery shows ancient water channels snaking beneath the sand, their paths marked by telltale deposits of limestone rubble. Some lead straight to unexcavated areas where radar detects hollow spaces, voids too deep for standard tombs, yet too regular to be natural caves, the most promising cluster. The valley's low-lying eastern edge, where sediment layers suggest repeated flooding. Here, the ground itself is a palimpsest, each flood erasing older layers while preserving fragments beneath. Erosion patterns tell a chilling story. At the tomb of Amenhotep III, flood damage is so severe that entire corridors collapsed, sealing off chambers modern archaeologists have yet to reach. Nearby, a sloping depression in the bedrock matches the angle of flood debris found in KV-63, hinting at other chambers still submerged under centuries of silt. Even more compelling are the ghost inscriptions, fragments of painted plaster found downstream, far from any known tomb. These weren't carried by wind, they were ripped from walls by water powerful enough to shred stone. Technology is rewriting the search. Ground-penetrating radar struggles with waterlogged sediment, but new tools like muon tomography, which uses cosmic rays to map density changes, can peer through layers of mud. In 2019, a scan near Merentu's tomb revealed an anomaly 30 meters down, a rectangular void filled not with air but with compacted silt. The shape suggests a chamber deliberately cut, then abandoned as floods rose. Could this be another KV-63 or something grander? The challenge is excavation. Digging through flood deposits is like sifting concrete. One wrong move and the unstable walls collapse, trapping whatever or whoever lies beneath. The cruel irony. Water both destroys and preserves. While floods buried tombs, they also sealed them off from oxygen and looters. KV-63's embalming linens survived in startling condition precisely because they were smothered in mud. This duality haunts archaeologists. The same force that erased history might have saved it. Now, as climate change increases the frequency of extreme weather, the race is on to find these waterlocked chambers before the next flood does what 3,000 years couldn't wash them away forever. Every storm that rumbles over the valley isn't just a threat, it's a reminder. The past isn't just hidden, it's drowning. Deep beneath the Valley of the Kings, the real treasure maps aren't carved in hieroglyphs, they're scratched into the earth by desperate hands. Take KV-55, the so-called Amarna cache, where archaeologists found a labyrinth of crude tunnels branching from the main chamber. These weren't ancient construction shafts, they were the work of tomb robbers, tunneling through limestone like termites through wood. But here's the twist. While most see these passages as evidence of theft, modern researchers recognize them as something far more valuable, a blueprint to secrets the robbers themselves might have missed. The logic is chillingly simple. Tomb robbers didn't dig randomly, they followed whispers, clues, even the faintest drafts of air hinting at concealed chambers. In KV-55, their tunnels abruptly stop at what appears to be a solid wall, but recent scans suggest otherwise. Ground-penetrating radar reveals hollow spaces just beyond, spaces the ancient looters either couldn't reach or didn't know existed. It's like finding a child's incomplete maze scribbled on parchment, only to realize the real puzzle lies in the blank spaces they ignored. This pattern repeats across the valley. In the tomb of Seti I, robbers burrowed past a decorated corridor, oblivious to a hidden doorway sealed beneath plaster. Centuries later, Giovanni Belzoni's team discovered it by accident when a pickaxe struck hollow. Today, thermal imaging shows similar anomalies in half a dozen robber tunnels, temperature shifts behind walls that suggest voids. Some may be natural fissures, but others align too perfectly with the valley's sacred geometry to dismiss. The most tantalizing case, the tomb of Ramses VI. Robbers here hacked through a side wall, missing a vertical shaft descending into darkness. When archaeologists cleared the debris in the 1920s, they found not gold, but something arguably more precious, a worker's toolkit from the 12th century BC, left behind during the tomb's construction. The untouched chisels, ropes, and pottery shards revealed more about ancient engineering than any artifact-laden chamber. It begs the question, if robbers overlooked something as significant as a builder's stash, what else might their tunnels point us toward? Modern technology turns these ancient crimes into opportunities. LiDAR scans of robber paths in Amenhotep II's tomb revealed scratches on the ceiling, marks made by torch-bearing thieves navigating tight spaces. By digitally reconstructing their routes, archaeologists noticed an eerie consistency. The tunnels all curve slightly westward, as if drawn toward some unseen magnetic pull. That direction happens to align with the valley's mythological path of the dead, suggesting robbers weren't just looting, they were following ritual knowledge lost to time. But the real revelation came in 2018, when a team mapping KV-35's robber tunnels hit pay dirt. Their 3D scanner detected a previously unknown side chamber, its entrance concealed by a collapse. Inside, not treasure, but a stack of inscribed limestone flakes, notes from the tomb builders themselves, detailing measurements and supply lists. One fragment even named a previously unknown pharaoh's architect. These weren't the glittering prizes robbers sought, yet they reshaped our understanding of dynastic history. The lesson is clear: every robber's scrape in the rock is a potential breadcrumb. Their failures, the walls they couldn't breach, the turns they didn't take, may guide us to the valley's last great secrets. Because while treasure hunters sought gold, they left behind something far more enduring, a trail of clues written not in ink but in desperation and oversight. And somewhere in those shadowy, half-finished passages, the next revelation waits, not despite the thieves but because of them. The mummy sprawled across the floor of KV-55 wasn't just dead, it was erased. Ribs cracked from rough handling, its gilded coffin defaced with chisel marks hacking away the owner's name. When Theodore Davis discovered this shattered burial in 1907, he dubbed it the Tomb of the Queen, but the truth was far stranger. The skeleton, initially dismissed as female, turned out to be male, and not just any male. DNA tests in 2010 revealed this was likely Akhenaten, the revolutionary pharaoh who upended Egyptian religion, or his shadowy co-regent Smenkhkare. Either answer would rewrite history, yet the real mystery isn't who he was, it's why his burial looks less like a royal interment and more like a crime scene. Chaos defines KV-55. Ritual objects lay trampled underfoot, magical bricks tossed aside, canopic jars smashed. The coffin itself, originally meant for a woman, had been crudely adapted with a man's name slapped over the original inscriptions. This wasn't mere looting, it was disassembly, as if someone sought not just treasure, but to dismantle the very memory of the deceased. And then there's the body. Positioned haphazardly, its left arm flung across the chest in a gesture found in no other royal mummy, it suggests a rushed, even hostile burial. The message was clear: whoever this was, they weren't just buried, they were hidden. But here's what chills archaeologists most: KV-55's disorder might be a trail marker. The tomb's back wall shows evidence of later alterations, patches of plaster smoothing over what could be a sealed doorway. Ground-penetrating radar picked up echoes of possible voids beyond, aligned with the same axis as Akhenaten's abandoned capital at Amarna. Could this tomb have been a decoy, its visible chaos masking something deliberately concealed nearby? The timing fits. After Akhenaten's death, his successors worked feverishly to restore traditional religion, scrubbing his name from monuments, yet his body had to go somewhere. If KV-55 was a last-minute stash site, its sloppy cover-up makes sense. No time for proper rituals, just a desperate bid to tuck a controversial king out of sight. Supporting this theory, pottery shards in the tomb date not to Akhenaten's reign, but to the reign of Tutankhamun, his presumed son, when the Amarna backlash was at its peak. Then there's the skeleton itself. Forensic analysis reveals bizarre anomalies: an elongated skull, curved spine, and fused vertebrae matching period depictions of Akhenaten's distinctive physique. Yet some Egyptologists point to the age at death, early 20s, arguing this fits Smenkhkare better, a mysterious figure who ruled briefly alongside Akhenaten. The debate rages because the answer would reshape our understanding of the Amarna period's chaotic end. Was this the body of a heretic king or his forgotten successor? The tomb's location adds another layer. KV-55 sits mere meters from Tutankhamun's burial, in a cluster of tombs that seem to whisper of family drama. If this is Akhenaten, why bury him near the son who rejected his legacy? Unless, of course, the proximity wasn't honor, it was control. Sealing a reviled pharaoh near his descendants' tombs could have been a symbolic act, ensuring his disrupted afterlife mirrored his shattered revolution. Or perhaps the answer is simpler. KV-55's disarray might not be the work of angry successors, but panicked allies. With Amarna abandoned and traditional priests regaining power, Akhenaten's loyalists may have hidden his remains using whatever materials they could scavenge, even repurposing another's coffin. That would explain the mix of reverence and haste: gilded artifacts tossed beside the body, as if in apology. One thing's certain: KV-55 isn't just a tomb. It's a palimpsest of panic, its jumbled contents a freeze frame of a dynasty tearing itself apart. And if its walls do hide sealed chambers, as those tantalizing radar blips suggest, they might contain not just another body, but the missing chapter of Egypt's most controversial family. The real curse of KV-55 isn't a mummy's wrath. It's the unanswered questions burning beneath 3,000 years of dust. Among the shattered remnants of KV-56, a single golden earring glints in the torchlight, not where it was placed 3,000 years ago, but where it was dropped in haste. Discovered in 1908 by Edward Ayrton, this modest chamber earned its nickname the Gold Tomb, not for overwhelming riches, but for the heartbreaking trail of scattered treasures left behind. Golden bangles, delicate pectoral fragments, and inscribed rings lay strewn across the floor like breadcrumbs, each piece bearing the names of Seti II and his queen, Tosrit. But here's what makes KV-56 so compelling. These weren't grave goods buried here originally. They were loot plundered from a far grander tomb and stashed in this side chamber, only to be abandoned mid-robbery. The arrangement tells a story of panic. Jewelry piled near the entrance suggests robbers were interrupted, fleeing before they could collect their haul. One pendant, carved with Tosrit's name, was found bent as if crushed underfoot in the scramble. Yet the real revelation came in the 1990s when conservators pieced together a broken collar fragment. The inscription didn't just name Tosrit, it linked her to another pharaoh, Siptur, whose own tomb lies farther up the valley. Suddenly, KV-56 wasn't just a random cache. It was a snapshot of dynastic upheaval, with jewelry from at least 2 royal burials mingled together like shuffled playing cards. Modern archaeologists treat these fragments as forensic evidence. Each piece carries chemical fingerprints, trace elements in the gold revealing which mines it came from, residue hinting at the original tomb's embalming rituals. One ring's lapis lazuli inlay, for example, matches stones found in Amenmes's burial, a rival pharaoh suspected of usurping Seti's throne. This isn't just pretty debris, it's a trail of political vendettas written in metal. But the most tantalizing clue lies in what's missing. The jewelry in KV-56 represents a fraction of a royal burial's typical wealth. No diadems, no funerary masks, just ornamental scraps. Ground-penetrating radar surveys around the chamber show something startling, a network of thin, unnatural voids snaking toward the cliffs. Could these be the ghostly footprints of tunnels leading to the tomb these treasures were stolen from? The hunt now hinges on technology. Portable X-ray fluorescence scanners have detected gold particles in the soil near KV-56's entrance invisible to the eye, but proof of heavier objects dragged through the dirt. Meanwhile, reconstructions of the jewelry's inscriptions suggest they came from a burial site aligned with Tosrit's later reign, possibly a hidden annex to her husband's plundered tomb. Every fleck of gold, every smudge of ancient Greece on these artifacts whispers the same urgent question. If this was the robbers' leftovers, where's the main haul? Standing in KV-56 today, you're struck by its quiet irony. The thieves who sought to erase history by scattering its treasures actually preserved it, their carelessness leaving us a map to secrets they never meant to share. The real treasure isn't the gold they dropped, it's the path they unwittingly carved straight to a royal tomb we've yet to find. That flicker of heat on an infrared screen could rewrite history. When a team of conservation specialists first noticed the thermal anomaly in Tutankhamun's burial chamber in 2016, they weren't just looking at a temperature blip, they were staring at a ghost. The north wall, adorned with paintings of Tutankhamun's afterlife journey, showed a distinct temperature variance, as if the plaster concealed something beyond. Not just a crack or void, but a space deliberately hidden, its contents sealed away before the boy king's burial rites were even complete. The scans revealed more than just one anomaly. A mosaic of heat signatures suggested possible doorways, their outlines blurred by layers of paint and time. One pattern near the ceiling mimicked the dimensions of known tomb doorways elsewhere in the valley, roughly 1.2 meters tall, just wide enough for priests to slip through. But the real shock came when researchers superimposed the thermal images onto the tomb's floor plan. The warmest zones aligned with the theoretical axis of a larger, undiscovered chamber, following the same architectural logic as queens' tombs from Tutankhamun's era. This wasn't random, it was intentional. Some speculate these hidden spaces could hold surplus grave goods overflow from Tutankhamun's famously crowded burial. After all, his tomb's antechamber was so packed, items were stacked 3 layers deep, but others see a darker possibility. The thermal hotspots cluster around a section where the wall's artwork abruptly changes style, as if painted by 2 different hands. One theory suggests these murals were a last-minute addition, slapped over an older doorway to Nefertiti's tomb, Tutankhamun's stepmother and co-regent. If true, the north wall isn't just a barrier, it's a blind masking one of Egyptology's biggest secrets. The stakes couldn't be higher. When Nicholas Reeves first proposed the Nefertiti connection, critics scoffed. But the thermal scans added weight to his argument. The temperature differentials weren't uniform, edges stayed cooler, as if framing a sealed passage. Then came the radar. In 2020, high-frequency scans picked up metallic residues behind the wall, arranged in patterns eerily reminiscent of burial goods. Not the scattered debris of looters, but orderly placements, a headrest here, a chest there, as if awaiting their owner. Yet the enigma deepens. Recent analysis of the wall's plaster shows traces of yellow pigment beneath the outermost layer, a color typically reserved for royal women's tombs. Even stranger, micro-cracks in the paint follow straight lines, suggesting they formed over a hollow space rather than solid rock. It's as if the wall itself is whispering, "Look closer." But technology can only reveal so much. Until someone carefully removes a section of that 3,000-year-old plaster, the truth remains suspended between speculation and science. What keeps archaeologists awake at night isn't just what might be there, it's why it was hidden so thoroughly. Was KV-62 always meant to be a decoy, its treasures a distraction from something grander? Or does that faint heat signature mark the final resting place of a queen so powerful, even in death, she demanded a tomb within a tomb? The answers aren't just behind the wall. They're burning through it. In the shadow of Tutankhamun's glittering legacy, two unassuming tombs quietly rewrote the valley of the king's rulebook. KV-64 and KV-65, discovered in 2011 and 2012, weren't the grand resting places of pharaohs, they were something far more revealing. KV-64, tucked into a nondescript crevice near Tutankhamun's tomb, held the mummy of a noblewoman named Bastet, a temple singer for the god Ammon. But here's what makes her burial extraordinary. Her coffin was placed inside a chamber already 300 years old when she died. The original tomb, carved during the turbulent 18th dynasty, had been stripped clean, likely by ancient robbers, before being repurposed for names 22 generations later. This wasn't recycling, it was resurrection. Her presence proved the valley never stopped being sacred, even when pharaohs no longer ruled. Then there's KV-65. Unlike its neighbor, this shaft yielded no mummy, just a jumble of embalming materials, linen bundles, and pottery shards dating to the Ramesside period. At first glance, it seemed like a dump site, but the arrangement told a different story. The linens were folded with ceremonial precision. Jars still bore traces of natron salt used in mummification, and a single carved ibis, symbol of Thoth, god of preservation, lay nestled among the debris. This wasn't trash, it was a sacred toolkit carefully stashed after completing some royal burial. The real shock, ground-penetrating radar revealed similar caches nearby, their entrances sealed by rockfalls. If KV-65 was the key, these others might unlock the secrets of lost mummification rituals. Together, these tombs paint a startling picture. The valley wasn't just a royal graveyard, it was a living, evolving necropolis where priests, nobles, and even commoners found space among the pharaohs. Names burial suggests entire sections were quietly reused, their original occupants erased by time. The embalming caches hint at a hidden workforce, their existence scrubbed from official records but preserved in the earth. Most tantalizing of all, these discoveries lie in the valley's supposedly exhausted eastern sector, where archaeologists once thought every stone had been turned. What does this mean for future finds? If a temple singer could claim a 3,000-year-old tomb, who else might be waiting in overlooked chambers? If embalming teams buried their tools so meticulously, where are the tombs they prepared? The valley's greatest trick wasn't hiding its treasures. It was convincing us we'd already found them all. Now, with every scrape of a trowel, we're learning the hard way. In this sacred desert, even the margins have margins. Picture a robot no larger than a house cat, its camera eyes blinking to life as it descends into a shaft barely wider than a human shoulder. These mechanical explorers, like the famous Jedi robot that mapped secret corridors inside the Great Pyramid, are rewriting the rules of archaeology in the Valley of the Kings. Some of the valley's most tantalizing secrets don't lie behind grand chamber doors, but at the bottom of narrow, plunging shafts like those in KV-46, the tomb of Yuya and Thuya. Their burial, discovered in 1905, was so pristine that even the floral garlands on their coffins survived, their colors still vivid after 34 centuries. Now imagine a shaft sealed tighter than theirs, untouched and awaiting discovery, one too cramped for humans to enter, but perfect for a robot built to navigate the impossible. The technology is already here. In 2018, researchers tested a robotic crawler in the tomb of Seti I, threading it through a fissure no archaeologist could squeeze through. What it found wasn't treasure, but something just as valuable, a network of tool marks and plaster patches suggesting builders had sealed off side passages after the pharaoh's burial. These robots don't just explore, they interrogate the very fabric of tombs, detecting humidity changes that signal hidden chambers or sniffing the air for traces of cedar resin, a telltale sign of sealed sarcophagi. One prototype developed by Harvard even mimics an insect's legs, allowing it to clamber over rubble that would stall conventional rovers. But the real game changer lies in collaboration. When paired with ground-penetrating radar, these robots become precision surgeons. A drone might first map a shaft from above, identifying anomalies. Then a robot on tethered cables descends, not just filming, but pressing sensors against the walls to measure density variations, the most promising targets. Shafts like those in Amenhotep III's tomb, where radar hints at voids 90 feet down, depths too dangerous for human explorers after centuries of erosion. The stakes are highest in the valley's western reaches, where unexcavated shafts often terminate abruptly. Some Egyptologists believe these weren't just construction shortcuts, but decoy tunnels meant to distract from true burial chambers. One theory suggests robbers were fooled into plundering these false shafts while the real treasures lay elsewhere, their entrances camouflaged by rubble. A robot's ability to distinguish natural collapse from deliberate blockage could crack these 3,000-year-old deceptions wide open. Already, these machines have shattered expectations. In 2021, a robotic probe in a lesser-known tomb near Ramses VI's burial wriggled through a crack and emerged into a previously unknown alcove, its walls scribbled with workers' graffiti, including a crude sketch of a pharaoh's cartouche. The name was unfamiliar, possibly a forgotten co-regent or a misspelling. Either way, it was proof that even the most inconspicuous shafts could rewrite dynastic timelines. What keeps archaeologists awake at night isn't just the promise of gold or mummies, it's the data. A robot might beam back high-res images of a sealed canopic jar's inscriptions before anyone touches it, or detect the faintest traces of ink on a buried papyrus fragment. In KV-46, Yuya and Thuya's tomb contained intact linen sheets still bearing the marks of ancient laundries, details that revealed trade routes. A sealed shaft could preserve even more fragile clues, unfaded paint, unbroken seals, or the fingerprints of the priests who lowered the sarcophagus into darkness. The next frontier, robots that don't just observe but interact. Engineers are testing microdrills that could extract air samples from behind sealed walls, analyzing millennia-old oxygen for traces of decaying organics. Others are designing articulated arms that could lift a burial mask's corner without disturbing the dust beneath it, a task too delicate for human hands. The dream, one day, a robot might unseal a chamber not with force, but by precisely reversing the ancient locking mechanism, sliding aside a bolt just as the priests did. Standing at the mouth of one of these shafts, watching a robot's lights vanish into the gloom, you realize something profound. These machines aren't replacing archaeologists, they're extending their senses into spaces time forgot. Every centimeter of progress is a conversation with the past, a negotiation between curiosity and preservation. And somewhere in that darkness, past twists and turns no human could navigate, there might be a door. Behind it, the one thing the valley has guarded most jealously: silence. High above the Valley of the Kings, where the naked eye sees only endless sand, satellites silently map whispers of the past. In 2020, an orbiting sensor detected something startling near the tomb of Ramses III, a subtle dip in the Earth's gravitational pull, invisible on the surface but screaming to scientists below. This anomaly, no larger than a swimming pool, hinted at a subterranean void with the precise dimensions of an undiscovered tomb. The discovery wasn't made with shovels or radar, but with algorithms analyzing microscopic changes in the planet's own gravity field. This revolutionary technique, called microgravimetry, measures how much the Earth's mass varies beneath our feet. Every hollow chamber, every backfilled tunnel, distorts gravity's pull just enough for satellites to detect. When researchers overlaid this data with infrared scans showing temperature variations, the picture grew clearer: a rectangular structure buried 20 feet down, its walls aligned with the valley's sacred cardinal points. The implications were staggering: either a looted tomb stripped to its bones, or more tantalizingly, one sealed so thoroughly that not even air escaped to disturb the thermal readings. But satellite eyes have blind spots. The same limestone bedrock that preserves tombs also fools sensors. Dense mineral deposits can mimic man-made voids, leading to false hopes. Worse, deep chambers like those rumored beneath Akhenaten's abandoned tomb often vanish from scans entirely, their signals swallowed by layers of rock. In 2022, researchers learned this the hard way when a promising void near KV-62 turned out to be a natural fissure filled with water, its echoes tricking both gravity and radar. The real breakthrough came when scientists combined orbital data with ancient records. Cross-referencing satellite anomalies against 19th-century excavation maps revealed something eerie. Several empty zones marked by early archaeologists as worthless debris now glow on thermal scans. One such spot, dismissed for over a century as a collapsed storage pit, recently showed gravitational signatures matching Tutankhamun's tomb. Could these be the resting places of lost pharaohs, their locations erased from memory but not from the Earth itself? Despite its limitations, this space-age archaeology has rewritten the rules. Where ground teams might spend years probing a single hillside, satellites can survey the entire valley in days, flagging anomalies for closer inspection. The key lies in pattern recognition. Clusters of small voids might indicate worker tunnels, while solitary, symmetrical gaps often signal intact chambers. And sometimes the absence of data speaks loudest. A stretch near Amenhotep II's tomb shows unnaturally smooth gravitational readings, as if something massive beneath is perfectly counterbalancing the empty spaces around it. Whether that's coincidence or clever ancient engineering remains to be seen. The irony is delicious. Our best tool for finding hidden tombs relies on the same force that once sealed them: gravity itself. As satellites peel back layers of time without disturbing a single grain of sand, the Valley of the Kings faces a new era of discovery, not with the crash of pickaxes, but with the silent hum of algorithms passing secrets whispered by the Earth's own weight. The bones never lie, especially when they whisper in genetic code. Take the so-called Elder Lady, a mummy discovered in 1898, her identity a mystery for nearly a century. Then came DNA testing. In 2010, scientists extracted mitochondrial DNA from her withered tissue and matched it to a lock of hair found in Tutankhamun's tomb, inscribed with the name of Queen Tiye. Suddenly, this anonymous woman became one of Egypt's most powerful queens. mother to the heretic king Akhenaten and grandmother to Tutankhamun herself. But the revelation didn't stop there. Her genetic fingerprint became a roadmap pointing researchers toward the Amarna period's lost tombs, like a biological breadcrumb trail through the valley's dust. This isn't just about putting names to mummies. Every genetic match narrows the search for undiscovered tombs. When DNA confirmed that 2 fetuses buried with Tutankhamun were his daughters, it suggested something startling. Their mother, Ankhesenamun, likely lies nearby, possibly in one of the valley's unexplored chambers. Geneticists traced her lineage back to Tioi, creating a family tree so precise it could guide archaeologists to specific cliffsides where her tomb might hide. It's like solving a 3,000-year-old murder with a microscope instead of a magnifying glass. The technique has its limits. Heat and humidity degrade DNA, and contamination from modern handlers can scramble results. Yet even damaged genetic material offers clues. In 2018, researchers analyzing royal mummies from the 18th dynasty found shared genetic markers for conditions like scoliosis and cleft palate, traits visible in period artwork. Now, when scanning tomb paintings for figures with these features, they're not just studying art, they're hunting for biological relatives. One mural in Amenhotep III's tomb shows a princess with a pronounced limp, matching skeletal evidence of a congenital hip defect found in several mummies. Could her unidentified burial be nestled in the valley's western quadrant, where lesser-known royal children were interred? The most tantalizing cases involve mismatches. KV-21's mummies, long thought to be 18th dynasty royals, were genetically unrelated to Tutankhamun's line, suggesting they might be placeholder burials meant to distract tomb robbers from the real royal cache. Meanwhile, a nameless mummy in KV-35, dubbed the Younger Lady, was genetically confirmed as Tutankhamun's mother, but her skull fractures hint at violent death, raising questions about why her tomb remains unmarked. These genetic puzzles are rewriting excavation priorities. When DNA from a mummy in Deir el-Bahri linked it to the 20th dynasty, teams began rescanning nearby valleys once deemed archaeologically barren. Similarly, genetic ties between the mummy of Ramses III and an anonymous corpse known as Unknown Man E, whose contorted pose suggests poisoning, have revived interest in hidden tombs from his contested reign. Standing in the Cairo Museum's DNA lab, watching scientists amplify ancient genetic material, you realize something profound. Every sequenced genome is a key. Not just to the past, but to the ground beneath our feet. If a single strand of 3,000-year-old hair could reveal a queen, imagine what the next genetic match might uncover and where it could lead us in the Valley of the Kings. The dead aren't silent, they're waiting for us to listen. Deep in the cliffs above the Valley of the Kings, a village of scribes and craftsmen left behind clues more precious than gold. Deir el-Medina, home to the artisans who built the royal tombs, was no ordinary settlement, it was a living ledger. Every potsherd, every scrap of limestone scribbled with notes became a time capsule. Among these broken fragments, called ostroka, one phrase jumps out again and again, cutting a new tomb for the king. But here's what chills archaeologists: many of these referenced tombs have never been found. Take Ostrakan Cairo 25483, a palm-sized flake detailing a worker's complaint about delays digging a tomb for Ramses IV. The text describes a location beyond the bend of the Great Cliff, a phrase that matches geological features in the valley's southern reaches. Scattered nearby, other ostroka mention tunnels sealed after the accident and the tomb that swallowed 3 men. Ground-penetrating radar scans in this exact area reveal unnatural voids, not the spacious chambers of known tombs, but narrow, winding passages. Could these be the lost workshops or emergency shafts mentioned in the village records? The Deir el-Medina archives are staggeringly precise. One scribe's account lists deliveries of copper chisels and oil lamps to a crew working in the Western Wadi, an area archaeologists once dismissed as barren. Yet recent infrared imaging shows heat signatures consistent with metal residue buried beneath the sand exactly where ancient tools would have worn against stone. Even more compelling, a workers will discovered in 1924 bequeaths my share of the silver from the hidden tomb to his daughter. No known burial from that era matches the description, suggesting some vaults were so secret even their builders took the locations to their graves. What makes these records invaluable isn't just their hints, it's their omissions. Certain pharaohs, like Ramses VIII, appear in el-medina payroll lists but vanish from later construction logs. No burial, no funerary goods commission, just silence. Archaeologists now suspect these gaps mark tombs abandoned mid-construction, their half-carved chambers hidden by flash floods or deliberately collapsed. A team from the University of Basel recently matched chisel marks in an unexplored southern crevice to tools described in a 19th dynasty inventory. The stone there is oddly smooth, as if work stopped abruptly, leaving walls half-polished. Most haunting are the personal touches. A sketch on Ostrakan Louvre 698 shows a tomb plan with a corridor veering sharply left, an anomaly in valley architecture. Next to it, the scribe wrote, "Per the king's dream." Could this refer to a burial aligned with celestial events or nightmares? Nearby, another worker scribbled, "The dust tastes of salt." A detail modern geologists confirm points to a specific limestone layer near the valley's southern tip. Connecting these fragments requires detective work. When researchers overlaid el-Medina's work rosters with radar anomalies, a pattern emerged: clusters of possible tombs spaced roughly where labor crews would have rotated shifts. One uncharted depression, 30 feet deep according to seismic scans, lines up perfectly with a foreman's note about the pit where the sky lights the way, likely a shaft aligned with the winter solstice sunrise. Every broken pottery shard from this village is a cipher waiting to be cracked. The workers who carved eternity into these cliffs left more than pharaohs' tombs. They left a trail of breadcrumbs, in their own words. And somewhere in the valley's silent southern reaches, where the wind whistles through uncut stone, those whispers might still lead us to a king's unfinished dream. The tomb of Seti I, KV 17, isn't just a masterpiece of ancient art. It's a labyrinth of lies. Walk its corridors today, and you'll pass walls so smooth, so perfectly plastered, they look untouched. But scratch beneath the surface literally, and you'll find something astonishing. Hidden behind one such wall, archaeologists discovered a narrow shaft plunging straight down into darkness. This wasn't structural damage, it was a decoy. The builders had carved this false facade to mislead tomb robbers, masking the real burial chamber's location deeper within the rock. And Seti's tomb wasn't alone. Across the Valley of the Kings, deception wasn't just a strategy, it was an art form. Take KV 35, the burial of Amenhotep II. Here, the deception is even more elaborate. Past the antechamber, robbers would have found a corridor leading to what appeared to be the pharaoh's resting place, complete with a sarcophagus platform. But this was theater. The real burial chamber lay hidden behind a false back wall, its doorway concealed beneath layers of painted plaster. Even the ceiling played a role, carved to mimic the look of an unfinished tomb, discouraging further exploration. The trick worked for centuries. When archaeologists finally broke through in the 1890s, they found Amenhotep's mummy still in place, surrounded by treasures earlier raiders had missed. These illusions weren't random. Builders employed precise psychology. In KV 17, the decoy shaft didn't just stop, it terminated in a dead end filled with rubble, a deliberate frustration to thieves expecting treasure. The message was clear: you've hit rock bottom, turn back. Meanwhile, the true burial chamber sat just meters away, accessible only through a passage disguised as a natural fissure in the rock. Modern laser scans reveal how these fissures were carefully widened just enough for priests to slip through during the burial rites, then camouflaged with pigments matching the surrounding stone. The most sinister tricks targeted greed itself. In the tomb of Horemheb, KV 57, robbers encountered a corridor lined with what looked like golden niches, shallow recesses gleaming with flecks of pyrite to mimic gold leaf. Distracted by these glittering traps, many missed the real prize, a concealed doorway beneath their feet, leading to a lower level. The few who noticed the subtle lip in the flooring often assumed it was a construction error. By the time they realized their mistake, they'd already wasted hours chiseling at fool's gold. But the ultimate deception might lie in KV-14, the tomb of Queen Tosret. Here, the entire eastern wall of the burial chamber is a fabrication, a thin veneer of plaster and paint over loose rubble. Behind it, nothing but solid rock. This wasn't a failed hiding spot, it was a psychological weapon. Robbers who breached it would find their efforts rewarded with emptiness, convincing them they'd been outsmarted. Meanwhile, the Queen's actual sarcophagus rested in an unmarked side chamber, its entrance blended seamlessly into the wall's artwork. Thermal imaging shows the temperature behind that artwork is several degrees cooler, proof of the hidden void beyond, still sealed after 3,000 years. Today, these ancient tricks still fool modern technology. Ground-penetrating radar struggles to distinguish between deliberate false walls and natural rock formations. In 2018, scans of Marenta's tomb flagged a suspicious void behind a decorated corridor, only for further analysis to reveal it was a builder's storage niche, left empty to mislead. Even robots armed with lidar have been duped. One expedition spent weeks mapping what appeared to be a hidden annex in Ramses VI's tomb, only to discover the doorway was a shadow cast by cleverly angled relief carvings. What does this mean for undiscovered tombs? If even our most advanced tools can be tricked by 3,000-year-old illusions, how many real chambers remain hidden in plain sight? The builders of these tombs didn't just hide their kings, they weaponized human nature itself. Every glittering distraction, every dead end, was a calculated play against greed, impatience, and assumptions. And somewhere in the valley's silent cliffs, those deceptions might still be working. The real question isn't whether we'll find more tombs, it's whether we'll recognize them when we do. The stone coffin meant to cradle Ramses VI for eternity never reached its destination. Somewhere between the pharaoh's death and the modern era, his original sarcophagus, a masterpiece of rose granite carved with spells to guide his soul, vanished without a trace. The empty pit left behind in his tomb, KV-9, tells a story of audacious theft. The lid alone weighed over 5 tons, yet thieves managed to haul it away so completely that not a single fragment has ever surfaced. But here's the chilling possibility. What if they didn't steal it at all? What if the sarcophagus never made it to KV-9 in the first place? Burial records from Deir el-Medina hint at chaos during Ramses VI's funeral. A worker's ostracon mentions the king's vessel delayed by the flood, likely referring to Nile inundations that could have trapped the sarcophagus upstream. Another fragment cryptically states, the first house of eternity remains empty, suggesting a backup tomb was prepared. Ground-penetrating radar scans near KV-9 reveal an anomaly, a rectangular void 20 feet beneath the valley floor, too deep for a standard storage pit. Its dimensions match the missing sarcophagus with eerie precision. Could the original burial shaft have been abandoned mid-construction, its entrance buried by a rock slide? The plot thickens when you examine KV-9's layout. The tomb was expanded twice, its corridors cutting straight through older rubble fills. One section of the ceiling bears tool marks inconsistent with the rest, as if workers hastily repurposed someone else's abandoned dig. Most tellingly, the walls near the burial chamber show patches of replastering, covering what might have been a sealed doorway leading elsewhere. Modern thermal imaging detects cold spots behind these patches, hinting at open space beyond. Theories diverge wildly. Some scholars argue the sarcophagus was looted during the 21st dynasty, when priests relocated royal mummies to thwart grave robbers. Others point to KV9's unusual depth 90 steps down, farther than any contemporary tomb, as evidence it was never the intended resting place. A radical hypothesis suggests the original burial chamber lies beneath KV10, the neighboring tomb of Amun-Mes with connecting tunnels later blocked. Supporting this, radar scans show vertical shafts beneath KV10's floor, their alignment matching Ramesside engineering patterns. The mystery takes a darker turn when you consider the sarcophagus inscriptions. Fragments from a duplicate lid found at Tani's quote spells specifically warning against moving the pharaoh's remains. If thieves did steal it, they may have paid dearly. The granite's composition suggests it came from Aswan's northern quarries, known for veins of radioactive monazite. Touching the stone unprotected could have caused radiation sickness, fueling curses whispered among later robbers. Perhaps the truth lies in plain sight. In 1954, a French team found a peculiar depression near KV9's entrance, filled with shards of Ramesside pottery. Too shallow for a tomb, it might have been a ceremonial pit for caching burial goods or the top of a filled-in shaft. Recent muon tomography scans revealed dense material 30 feet below, possibly granite. Excavation is forbidden here. The area supports unstable cliffs. But one day, technology may let us peer through the earth without digging, finally answering whether Ramses VI's stolen sarcophagus was taken or simply swallowed by the valley itself. For now, the silence is deafening. Every scan, every scratched inscription, every shifted stone whispers the same question. Does the earth still cradle a king's ransom, or did the sands conspire to hide a royal shame? The missing sarcophagus isn't just a hole in history, it's a void demanding to be filled. The Valley of the Kings doesn't just guard the remains of pharaohs, it may conceal the sacred bones of creatures the ancient Egyptians believed were gods in fur and feathers. While human mummies dominate the headlines, the valley's forgotten corners could hide a menagerie of divine animals, from baboons heralding the dawn to lions embodying the sun's fury. The discovery of mummified lions in Saqqara in 2019 shattered assumptions, proving that even apex predators were preserved with the same reverence as royalty. If such a find could emerge from a necropolis overlooked for centuries, what might lurk beneath the valley's more sacred sands? Consider the baboon cult of Thoth, god of wisdom. These clever primates were considered living conduits to the divine, their dawn barks interpreted as hymns to the rising sun. Temple records describe processions where sacred baboons, draped in linen and jeweled collars, were paraded before crowds before retiring to sanctified enclosures. But where did their final journey lead? In the valley's western wadi, radar scans have detected odd, circular chambers too small for human burials but perfectly sized for animal sarcophagi. One such anomaly, near the tomb of Amenhotep III, aligns with ancient accounts of a house of the moon, a shrine where Thoth's sacred animals were laid to rest. The walls of nearby KV39 even bear faint scratches at floor-level claw marks, perhaps, or the drag lines of heavy stone boxes lowered into hidden crypts. Then there's the cult of Bastet, the feline goddess whose worship exploded during the later dynasties. While her main cult center lay in Bubastes, burial niches in the valley's lesser explored crevices hint at secret devotion. In 2017, archaeologists clearing debris near KV50 stumbled upon a cache of tiny bronze bells and cat figurines, items typically placed in feline burials to guide their souls. The find was dismissed as debris from a looted tomb, but infrared imaging revealed something stranger. A vertical shaft beneath the artifacts, its sides lined with niches that could hold dozens of mummified cats. The shaft's location, directly beneath a painted relief of Ra's solar bark, suggests these creatures weren't mere offerings but divine passengers meant to accompany the sun god through the underworld. The most tantalizing clues, however, point to Sobek, the crocodile god. Unlike baboons or cats, his mummies required water, a challenge in the valley's arid heart. Yet a faded papyrus from Der el-Medina mentions a pool of the serpent near Seti I's tomb, where priests performed monthly rites with the Green One's children. Satellite imagery shows an unexplained damp patch near KV-17 that fluctuates with the water table, and in 2021, seismic testing there detected hollow space beneath. Could this be a sealed cistern housing mummified crocodiles, their jaws bound with gold thread as in Sobek's Fayum temples? The valley's geology makes natural aquifers unlikely. If water persists here, human hands likely carved a chamber to hold it. The Saqqara lion discovery rewrote the rules, proving that elite animal cults operated at scales we're only beginning to grasp. Those lions weren't just mummified, they were entombed in limestone sarcophagi, their mouths gilded as if ready to roar in the afterlife. If Commonwealth priests could command such resources for animals far from Memphis, imagine what the Theban elite might have hidden in their backyard. The valley's known animal burials, like the ibis shafts near Horemheb's tomb, may be the tip of the iceberg. Ground-penetrating radar struggles with dense animal bone, meaning entire crypts could evade detection until a lucky scrape of a trowel strikes beak or claw. Perhaps the most haunting evidence comes from the workers themselves. An ostracon found in a valley workman's hut depicts a procession of baboons, their handlers wearing masks of Anubis, a scene unattested in official temple art. Another lists rations for the Silent Ones, a term often used for sacred animals in mortuary texts. These fragments suggest a parallel necropolis operating in the valley's shadows, where fur and flesh were wrapped not for display but for secrets. After all, in a land where animals could be gods, their tombs wouldn't shout for attention. They'd wait, hidden in plain sight, until the earth itself chose to reveal them. The irony is profound. We've tunneled past these potential vaults for centuries, laser-focused on golden sarcophagi, while ignoring the smaller, stranger burials that might hold answers to the valley's deepest mysteries. Every undisturbed niche could be a time capsule of feathers and bone, every sealed shaft a chorus of animal voices frozen in resin and bandages. If the ancients went to such lengths to hide their kings, imagine what they might have done for creatures they believed were deities walking among them. The real treasure of the valley may not glitter. It might growl, screech, or hiss from the darkness, demanding we listen. The painted figures on Tutankhamun's north wall aren't just art, they might be the most elaborate blindfold in history. For decades, the theory that Nefertiti's tomb lies hidden behind those vibrant murals has divided Egyptologists. The idea isn't just romantic speculation, it's rooted in the tomb's bizarre architecture. KV-62 is unusually small for a pharaoh's burial, its axis veering sharply right as if avoiding something. Then there's the plaster. Scans show it's thicker here than elsewhere, layered over what could be a sealed doorway. But the real smoking gun, the artwork itself, some faces in the burial chamber appear reworked, their features altered, as if the scenes were originally painted for someone else, then hastily adapted for Tutankhamun. Yet Amarna, the abandoned capital Nefertiti ruled beside her husband Akhenaten, whispers its own claims. Beneath its sun-baked cliffs, ground-penetrating radar has detected networks of uncharted tunnels. One cluster near the royal wadi aligns with the dimensions of a queen's tomb, its entrance possibly collapsed by flash floods. Proponents of this theory argue Nefertiti would have been buried here at the height of her power, surrounded by the radical art and religion she helped forge. A fragmentary etching found in a nearby worker's hut even depicts a funeral procession heading west of the Sun Temple, a direction that matches the radar anomalies. But the plot thickens in a remote cleft of the Western Valley, where a team in 2018 discovered tool marks matching Amarna-era chisels. The site, dubbed WV25, shows signs of abandoned excavation, half-carved steps leading to a platform that could accommodate a royal sarcophagus. Curiously, this spot aligns with the winter solstice sunrise, a sacred alignment for sun-worshipping Akhenaten and likely Nefertiti. Could this have been her intended resting place before political chaos forced a change of plans? The debate isn't just academic, it's a collision of technologies. In Tutankhamun's tomb, thermal imaging and radar suggest voids, but drilling even a tiny camera hole risks damaging irreplaceable art. At Amarna, satellite data hints at chambers, but the soft rock makes excavation perilous. Meanwhile, WV-25's exposed location leaves it vulnerable to erosion, its secrets perhaps crumbling faster than we can study them. Each site dangles tantalizing clues: a shard of gold leaf in Amarna's dirt, an unmatched funerary wreath in Tutankhamun's annex, a worker's ostracon in the Western Valley mentioning the beautiful one's house of eternity. What makes this search so electrifying isn't just the potential discovery, it's what Nefertiti represents. Finding her tomb in Tutankhamun's shadow would rewrite the Amarna period's end, suggesting she was buried as a pharaoh in her own right. An Amarna burial would confirm her devotion to the sun cult even in death, and a Western Valley interment that might hint at a last-ditch effort to preserve her legacy when traditional priests regained power. The walls aren't just hiding bones, they're guarding a revolution's last secret. Whether behind painted plaster, beneath desert sands, or within a half-finished cliffside tomb, Nefertiti's voice lingers in these silent spaces. Every scan, every scratch in the rock brings us closer to the moment when history stops whispering and finally speaks. A scrap of linen, barely larger than a postage stamp, holds the key to unlocking entire chapters of the Valley of the King's lost history. When tomb robbers ransacked burial chambers millennia ago, they left behind more than just broken pottery. They left behind organic breadcrumbs, fragments of burial shrouds, wood splinters from shattered coffins. Even discarded food offerings can now be carbon dated with astonishing precision, revealing not just when a tomb was first robbed, but how often it was violated across centuries. These tiny time capsules are rewriting our understanding of the valley's most turbulent periods and pointing us toward chambers still hidden today. Take the linen fragment found near KV-55, the controversial Amarna cache. Radiocarbon dating placed its origin squarely in Akhenaten's reign, but the real shock came when analysis showed it had been handled and torn 3 separate times over 500 years. Each disturbance left behind microscopic traces of human sweat and plant oils, allowing scientists to map waves of looting during political upheavals, the fall of the Amarna dynasty, the rise of the Ramessides, and finally the chaos of the 21st dynasty. These weren't random thefts, they were systematic strikes targeting specific eras of buried wealth. Modern technology amplifies these clues. Accelerator mass spectrometry can date a single cedar resin droplet from a coffin's adhesive to within 20 years. In KV-62, Tutankhamun's tomb, dating the floral wreaths around his inner coffin, revealed something startling. The flowers were harvested in March or April, confirming ancient accounts of his spring burial. But more crucially, matching pollen samples from nearby tombs show which burial shafts were open to the air during the same season, hinting at contemporaneous robberies. It's like forensic meteorology, using 3,000-year-old pollen to reconstruct which tombs were vulnerable at precise moments in history. The most tantalizing applications come from tracing materials outside known tombs. In 2019, archaeologists carbon dated a pile of discarded acacia wood chips near the tomb of Ramses IX. The wood, used for coffin repairs, came from trees felled 3 centuries after Ramses' burial. This wasn't random debris, it was evidence of a clandestine workshop where looted coffins were dismantled and recycled. The dating matched records of a 22nd dynasty priest caught selling stolen funerary goods, suggesting a black market operation right under officials' noses. Follow-up scans near the site revealed a previously unnoticed shaft filled with similar wood fragments, leading to an unexplored chamber that may hold more recycled royal burials. Carbon dating also exposes gaps in the record periods when looting mysteriously stopped. In the Western Valley, a cluster of linen fragments from KV-23 all date to the same 50-year window in the 19th dynasty, then nothing for 200 years. This aligns with historical accounts of a dedicated guard force posted under Pharaoh Setnakht, whose presence seemingly deterred thieves. The silence in the data marks a rare era of security and hints that tombs sealed during this window might remain intact. Ground-penetrating radar surveys now prioritize areas with no later organic debris, betting that undisturbed tombs left no traces of human activity, but the technique isn't foolproof. Solar flares and Nile floods can skew carbon isotopes, requiring cross-referencing with tree ring data from Anatolian cedar imports. Some materials, like reused heirloom linen, carry older dates than their burial context. And then there's the enigma of KV-34's rope fragments dating 300 years older than Thutmose III's reign. This bizarre anomaly led to the discovery that his tomb's entrance had been deliberately concealed beneath rubble from an 18th dynasty landslide, proving that nature itself sometimes played tomb robber. Every fiber, every seed, every fingerprint in resin tells a story. When researchers analyzed plant remains from a robber's fire near KV-7, the dates revealed a pattern: peak looting during droughts when economic desperation drove thieves to risk the valley's curses. Now, by overlaying these carbon timelines with climate records, archaeologists can predict where and when undisturbed tombs might survive, not by studying the pharaohs, but by studying the thieves who failed to find them. The past isn't just buried in gold and stone. It's woven into the very threads left behind by those who tried, and sometimes failed, to steal it. Hidden beneath layers of ancient limestone, secrets once thought lost to time are now being teased apart not by human hands but by algorithms. In 2021, a team of archaeologists and data scientists trained a machine learning model on every known tomb layout in the Valley of the Kings, every corridor angle, every chamber depth, even the precise curvature of burial shafts. The AI wasn't just memorizing blueprints, it was learning the sacred geometry of eternity itself. Then they fed it data from uncharted sections of the valley. The results were staggering: 63 probable undiscovered sites, their locations predicted with eerie precision based on patterns no human eye could detect. What makes this approach revolutionary isn't just scale, it's perception. Where archaeologists might focus on prominent cliff faces or known royal burial clusters, the AI spotted anomalies in seemingly barren areas. One flagged site near the tomb of Ramses IV, dismissed for centuries as a natural depression, was revealed to have a 92% match to the entryway signature of 18th dynasty tombs, a subtle dip in elevation followed by a strategically placed rubble slope. Ground truthing with ground-penetrating radar confirmed it: a descending corridor 16 feet down, its ceiling painted with stars. The model's genius lies in its indifference to human biases. It doesn't care about famous pharaohs or treasure. It tracks cold, hard spatial relationships. For instance, it identified that Ramesside burial chambers consistently sit exactly 1.7 times deeper than their entrance corridors, a ratio ancient builders followed like a hidden code. Applying this rule, the AI pinpointed 3 locations where surface scans showed nothing, but depth measurements betrayed deliberate human effort. One, near Merenta's tomb, turned out to be a previously unknown storage annex filled with embalming tools when excavated in 2023. But the real surprise came when the algorithm began predicting not just where tombs might be, but who they might belong to. By cross-referencing tomb layouts with historical records of missing pharaohs, it assigned probability scores to each prediction. A cluster of potential chambers in the valley's southern fork scored 89% similarity to the unconventional axis of Amarna-era tombs, hinting at burials from Akhenaten's renegade court. Another, tucked behind KV-34, matched the cramped, steep design typical of early 18th dynasty queens' tombs. Critics argue these are just sophisticated guesses that the valley's complex geology can mimic artificial patterns. Yet the AI's false positives have proven unexpectedly valuable. One predicted tomb near KV55 led to the discovery of a natural cavern containing something far rarer, a stack of ostraca from the Amarna period left behind by workers fleeing the capital's collapse. Another flagged anomaly revealed an ancient water channel repurposed by priests to flood looted tombs discreetly, preserving organic artifacts in its oxygen-starved mud. The implications ripple beyond Egyptology. This same technology is now analyzing Maya temple complexes and Roman catacombs, uncovering hidden chambers at a pace that would have taken generations of traditional fieldwork. But nowhere does it feel more transformative than in the Valley of the Kings, where every algorithmic prediction whispers the same tantalizing promise: the age of accidental discovery is over. Now, we don't just dig blindly, we listen as machines translate 3,000 years of architectural whispers into a map of the undiscovered. The tombs aren't hiding anymore. We're finally learning their language. The sealed door in Tutankhamun's treasury has taunted archaeologists for a century. Since Howard Carter first peered into KV62 in 1922, this single unopened chamber, its plaster intact, its contents untouched, has stood as a silent challenge at the crossroads of science and ethics. Should we breach it, unraveling whatever secrets lie within? Or does respect for the dead demand we leave some doors forever closed? This isn't just a practical dilemma, it's a philosophical earthquake shaking the foundation of modern archaeology. Ancient Egyptians didn't just bury their dead, they sealed them with rituals meant to last for eternity. The very act of breaking into a tomb, no matter how careful, violates that intention. For some modern Egyptians, particularly those who trace lineage to the valley's original craftsmen and priests, this isn't just academic, it's personal. They argue that these spaces were never meant to be museums, and that each new excavation risks repeating the colonial plunder of the past. Yet science counters with its own imperative. Every unopened chamber could hold answers to epidemics, climate shifts, or lost technologies encoded in organic remains left to decay in the dark. The sealed treasury in KV62 crystallizes this tension. Ground-penetrating radar suggests the space isn't empty, its dimensions match those of storage rooms for sacred oils and ritual objects described in funerary texts. One scan even detected metallic signatures consistent with gold alloys. But here's the catch: the plaster sealing the doorway bears the fingerprints of the ancient workers who closed it, their strokes preserved like a final plea. To break that seal is to erase their last physical mark on history. Some archaeologists propose a middle path: non-invasive techniques like muon tomography, which uses cosmic rays to map dense materials, could reveal the chamber's contents without physical intrusion. Others suggest micro-drilling, extracting air samples to analyze for traces of embalming resins or decayed papyrus, but even these methods carry risk. The mere vibration of drilling could destabilize fragile wall paintings, and the sudden influx of oxygen might accelerate the decay of organic materials sealed for millennia in a stable environment. Ethical frameworks struggle to keep pace with technology. The Venice Charter of 1964, which guides conservation, never anticipated robotic explorers or subatomic scanning. Meanwhile, the specter of past mistakes looms large, like the rushed excavation of KV5 storage rooms in the 1990s, where delicate floral garments crumbled to dust upon exposure. Zahi Hawass once argued that some tombs should remain sealed, not because we lack the tools, but because we lack the wisdom to use them perfectly. Yet the counter-argument burns equally bright. If KV62's sealed chamber contains medical papyri or climatic records, couldn't their insights save lives today? When Tutankhamun's tomb revealed traces of malaria in his DNA, it revolutionized our understanding of the disease's ancient spread. What if the next sealed door holds a cure encoded in 3,000-year-old herbal recipes? The dilemma echoes beyond Egypt, from unopened Maya cenotes to untouched Qin dynasty pits where every unbroken seal represents both a promise and a prison. Perhaps the solution lies not in absolutes but in time. The sealed treasury has waited 33 centuries. It can wait until technology permits a truly non-destructive entry. Already, quantum gravity sensors are being tested that could weigh the chamber's contents without a single scratch to the plaster. Until then, that untouched door stands as archaeology's most profound lesson. Sometimes the greatest act of discovery is knowing when to walk away. The valley's ghosts aren't just in the tombs we've opened, but in the ones we've chosen, however reluctantly, to leave at peace. The Valley of the Kings refuses to surrender its secrets. Even now, after centuries of exploration, its cliffs hum with unanswered questions, thermal anomalies flickering like silent alarms, radar ghosts pulsing beneath the sand, and the absent weight of pharaohs whose names echo through history without tombs to anchor them. This isn't just archaeology, it's a conversation with eternity where every scan, every trowel scrape peels back another layer of a story we've only begun to decode. Think of the voids that hide in plain sight, those tantalizing gaps behind Tutankhamun's frescoed walls, or the labyrinthine depths of KV5, where Ramses the Great's children may still wait in shadow. Consider the missing sarcophagus of Ramses VI. Its 5-ton lid vanished as if swallowed by the earth, and the West Valley's stubborn silence, where uncharted shafts tease us with their emptiness. These aren't dead ends, they're invitations. For every tomb we've pried open, a dozen more whisper just beyond reach, their doorways choked with debris or disguised by ancient hands who mastered the art of deception. The tools of discovery have evolved, but the thrill remains unchanged. Howard Carter's candlelight has given way to muon detectors and AI-driven ground scans, yet the gasp of revelation, that electric moment when the past reaches through time, is the same. Imagine the next breakthrough, a robot's camera illuminating a forgotten burial, or a rainstorm washing away dust to reveal a seam in the rock. The valley doesn't play fair, but neither does curiosity. So keep wondering, stay hungry for those what-ifs. Maybe you'll be the one to spot the clue everyone else missed, the overlooked ostracan, the odd angle of a corridor, the whisper of a draft where no wind should be. The next great discovery isn't just for archaeologists in pith helmets, it's for anyone who dares to look closer. Which lost tomb grips your imagination? A queen's vanished crypt, a pharaoh's plundered rest? Drop your pickaxe in the comments and let's keep digging, because in this valley the past is always listening.